You ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Editing the Academy. Darryl's Top 20, number 16.
16.
Okay.
We're moving on up the list.
Yeah, and mine is almost fixed. We're almost getting to a place where it's fixed and it won't change.
You say that. Let's hope that's true.
Top 10 are locked.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
He changes his movies quite a bit.
Almost every week.
Yeah.
My movie this time, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Such a fun movie. Stars Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Terry Gilliam, Eric Idle, Terry Jones, Michael Palin. Directed by Gilliam and Jones. They co-directed. It was a nightmare in their feature directorial debuts. It was nominated for Nothing, Anywhere, Ever.
Not surprising.
Received awards since then in retrospect.
Oh, that's nice. I'm glad.
Not anything. This movie, like many of the films that are on our list, one of my favorites because you know the film so well that, or at least I do, that you look forward to the scenes you really like, quote along with them. You almost can play characters where that you like, you know it so well, you've seen it so many times, and yeah, you may pick up one or two things new each time, but it's just so familiar. It's like a comfy blanket that you just kind of wrap yourself in and you play along.
Yep.
One of the reasons I like it. The thing in particular about Monty Python, massive Monty Python fan, is their ability to go from lowbrow to highbrow, often in the same joke.
Absolutely.
And have all of that work on all of the different levels that they're presenting. I went back and forth in my own head of this one or Life is Brian, because they're almost equivalent. But then being such a fan of King Arthur in those times, I was like, okay, this is the one I'm going to do.
This one is so much more eminently quotable.
Yes.
Like, there are so many quotes that you can just say in life, and people know what you're talking about.
Monty Python, with Monty Python, nothing is off limits. Everything is a joke. Everything can be made fun of, including themselves and the things they're doing in the moment. The opening, when you have... The credits are amazing.
Hilarious credits.
I didn't get it the first time. I wasn't paying attention because it's the opening credits.
Right.
You don't really... But a perfect opportunity for a joke. They take full advantage of it.
Absolutely.
And you're like, okay, now I know I'm in for a ride. Because if you're making fun in the opening credits...
It's only going to get better.
Yes.
Yeah.
With Monty Python, there are very few rules. Like I said, everything is on the table. And they seem to kind of go out of their way sometimes to undermine and destroy the rules that actually exist. They break the fourth wall. The timeline of this film is both modern and the past. You're not exactly sure where it's being set. Is it modern times or is it in the past? Like, did they
that last scene where they both combined the modern and the past?
There is a book of the film as it's being narrated. They basically just deconstruct any sort of rules for filmmaking overall, and everything is on the table to be made fun of.
There's live action. There's cartoons.
Yes.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be Monty Python without animated sections.
Cartoon piece. Yeah.
I could talk at length about the film and the troupe being groundbreaking, which they were, how they changed the landscape of comedy, which they definitely did and are constantly gone back to. There have been many sketch comedy troupes over the years that have been done well enough to have their own films, even think Kids in the Hall.
Yeah.
But this particular troupe stays around. New generations get to understand and know them and then realize, oh, this is kind of fun. I understand why when I was 7, my father and mother were laughing so hysterically at this. I now get it. So it's something that keeps coming back and circulating. The main thing is that while they come up with all these brilliant gags, you could come up with the most amazing concepts ever, and like this concept is going to be so funny, but it's always in the execution of that makes it actually be what it is. And their execution of the individual gags they do is stellar, top notch, perfection almost every time.
Even when it is really doesn't take that much technology, or like when they're throwing things, the cow coming over the wall, like that is very fun. It's hilarious. hilarious, but it's also doesn't take a lot to do that.
No, for a loose category, I would put them in like absurdist or surreal humor.
Agree.
And I'm a big fan of that style of humor anyway, like being very serious in a very ridiculous situation, like which they do frequently. You mentioned the quotable lines. There
Yes.
are so many. Probably the most popular one is it's but a flesh wound.
Oh yes, that was
but
the first one I put. Yep.
So many others. Very small rocks. And one of the things that I think they do very well is they talk with seeming intelligence and bring into these things these grand concepts, whether it's science, like the African swallow, and if they can actually carry the coconuts, or whether it's discussions about what governance actually is. We're an autonomous collective.
Which was hilarious.
Absolutely.
Yes, and very smart and very accurate. Yeah.
Just because some ornery tart threw a sword at you, like the way that they're able to play and bounce off of all of these things in these ridiculous situations, but have these apparently very highbrow conversations in these very lowbrow situations. And they will freely admit, like, we just learned the concept and thought that was kind of funny, so we threw it in. Like, we were, for some of the scenes, they were like, we had a thesaurus that we're going through looking for cooler words. Like,
That's awesome.
so, like, but at least they are aware of what they're attempting to do as they're doing all of this throughout. One of the principal guiding factors of Monty Python overall is they just play with the concept of what if. Like, if the what if scenario makes them laugh, then they're going to explore it. Like, what if King Arthur was running around on his horse, but he didn't actually have a horse, he was pretending? Oh, that's great. But what if also we still had the horse sound, but it was being made by coconuts?
Brilliant.
And then,
absolutely brilliant.
And then, in their typical style, they then have that very long conversation. They point out in the film, but you're just riding around with coconuts making the sound. And then they have this great conversation about how a coconut could end up in England. Like, one thing would be like, oh, it'd be funny if he's just pretending. And then they take it a step further. And then take it a step further. And then a step further. Like, that's, to me, brilliant. And have all of it actually be funny. That's hard to pull off. To continue the joke and the gag and make it funny, the deeper and further you go with it. And they're masters at that. I had a couple more things to say, but you go.
All right. First of all, I think with most absurdist humor, and with Monty Python in particular, you have to love it or you don't love it.
100%.
I 1,000 points love it. I love Monty Python, and this movie in particular is my favorite Monty Python movie, so I was really actually excited that you chose it. I think you described it well, is it's a combination of lowbrow and highbrow, and the fact that they can go from, talking about all of these different types of government, and then go into, I fart in your general direction, and have that be just as funny is kind of crazy. Everything is clever. You've talked about like some movies where you can look at there are things happening all over the screen. With this, it's more language.
Yes.
Everything they say is clever. Everything they say, most things they say have, double entendre, or it could be looked at in a couple of different ways. My favorite scenes are the singing that goes on with the Brave Knight Robin or whatever.
Brave Sir Robin.
Brave Sir Robin, and
He boldly ran away.
Away, he buggered away. And it was just absolutely hilarious, because then you're seeing his face, like, who are these people? And then later on in the movie, just a very throwaway line, and then they ate the minstrels. That just makes you laugh. And the so quotable, such a quotable movie. I had to do some landscaping last year, and I literally called my sister, and I basically said, I'm like, I must return with some shrubbery. Would you like to go pick out shrubbery with me? And she's like, yes, understanding exactly what I mean.
Another example of a joke that they continue, because, first off, it's absolutely absurd that you encounter these knights, and to pass, you have to get a shrubbery. Okay, that on the surface level is absurd and funny.
Of course.
But then they actually take that further and have multiple scenes about it and bring it back and then continue it even further. They're not just one-off jokes, they're developed jokes.
Yes. Well, and it's like the swallow at the beginning of the the movie is almost at the end of the movie.
Yep.
Again, that whole concept comes back up again, which you thought it was a 3-minute, farce, and then it comes back and it's like, oh, this is important and going to save the day.
Yeah.
Who knew? So yeah, and the same thing with the counting to 3. No more, no less. Not 2 and not 4.
Three shall be the number.
3 shall be the number. And that is, again, something that our family says to each other, or be like, what time do you want to pick up? 3. Not 2, not 4. I will pick you up at 3. 3 shall be the number.
Yep.
It's just, it is funny, and you pick up something new every single time.
One of the things with this film in particular, and they did it with, the other films as well, Life of Brian, and even Meaning of Life, which people always like, Meaning of Life's not that great.
Mm-hmm.
Watch it again. It's hysterical. That one has more quotable scenes than Monty Python and Life of Brian. You think of Every Sperm is Sacred.
Yep.
There's so many scenes in that are better than any individual scenes in this. It's just not as cohesive a story.
Okay.
But so anyway, check that one out
the
again.
music to that just actually popped up in my head as
Every
you
sperm is sorry, it's medical experiments for the lot of you.
Yep.
But in particular, this one, they root the scene so well, and it's so realistic and they did that specifically because sometimes they had to for the joke. Like when they're doing the Bring Out the Dead scene.
Yep.
If it wasn't dirty, grimy shit everywhere, then the joke of who's that? Well, he's a king. How do you know? He doesn't have any shit on him. Wouldn't work.
Right.
So, but all of those scenes are so well rooted that they elevate the jokes so you don't have to question anything about it. Like they take any sort of resistance away except for whether you like that humor or not.
Exactly.
And I was looking up online after I watched it to see what people thought about it now. And it's about like 85-50 or 50. Like 85 love it and 15% I just don't get it.
And I think that's it. I think it's just that people don't get it and don't enjoy that kind of humor.
Yeah,
it's not even that they don't like it. It's just that that's not for me.
If you don't giggle when you see a bunch of monks or priests doing their ominous as they're walking,
smacking themselves
and then hit themselves in the head with a Bible, if you don't find that funny, you're not going to find any of this funny.
Have you ever seen Spam-A-Lot?
Yeah, no.
Oh, you have to go see Spam-A-Lot.
I know.
So it takes this to the next level because it's a musical. So it's very, very funny.
Okay.
I highly recommend it. But yeah, I love this movie. I watched it again because I didn't even have to because I'd seen it so many times that I'm like, I can talk about it intelligently, but I'm like, but I get to watch it again. So I did.
The final point that I will reiterate when it comes to comedies, things of this nature, absurdist or not, it only works if it's funny. Like you can have the greatest ideas on the planet, and I've had tons of them, but the execution, it has to be funny. And if it's not funny, it doesn't work.
Where do you land on the Borat movies?
I get it, but I'm not a fan. It's not my humor.
I agree with you because I look at it as somewhat the same, maybe kind of a step genre of this, it just seems mean. And this is not mean at all.
No.
It's hilarious.
And even when Life of Brian came out, there was backlash. And they were not surprised, but they were kind of surprised because of the reverence that they actually treat religion in that movie. Is shocking how reverent they are towards religion in that movie. It's not taking it down at all.
Right.
Anyway, that's a whole different conversation. But anyway, yes, this is my number 16. If you have not seen it and you like even just a little absurdist humor, you will laugh your ass off throughout this entire movie.
And also, I would say, even if you're not sure, if you like the Arthurian legends,
that doesn't
Knights
matter.
of the Round Table, go for it.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Yes.
And if you're, last thing, if you're just questioning, like, do I even know what absurdist humor is? Do I like it? Give this movie a try.
Yep.
You will know by the end.
Absolutely. Give it a shot.
All right, see ya.
Bye. Very good choice.